Well, we're talking to Phil outside Douglas Rugby Club. We've just had the middle Manx Radio debate. 5 candidates: David Fowler, Kieran Hannafin, Alison Lynch, Stu Peters and Jane Poole-Wilson. I had the privilege tonight, Phil, of sitting next to you while you were scribbling your notes. So I've been having a sneaky peek over your shoulder.
That's cheating. I was enjoying that. It was a generally good, robust sort of debate. There were some very interesting ideas. There was on the one hand you had Stu's very polished reactionary politics. On the other hand, you had Kieran Hannafin's cool, laid-back, progressive politics, and most of the other candidates somewhere in between. Clearly, Jane Poole-Wilson had a lot of good detail. I mean, obviously she's been in Tynwald for the last 4 years, so she knows what she's talking about. She had some good, well-considered answers. But I think all the candidates, Alison Lynch obviously had spent a lot of time, got some really good research in there, possibly trying to give too much of the research and not enough of the more general, how you're going to fix these problems, rather than identifying what the problems are. And David Fowler had some great ideas on tourism, suggesting, God forbid, that actually the steam packet puts its fares down, and maybe that would attract people to come to the island.
And it's interesting, I think, tonight it was a lot of national issues. So some of the other debates have been more locally focused. Yes,
that was interesting. Now, whether that means that Bill Shimmons and Howard Quayle have fixed all the local problems in Middle, or whether it's just the way that the questions went, I don't know. But yeah, interesting. Certainly a lot more by way of national issues raised, certainly in the questions. Some great questions about who do you hold to account for failures? How do we get rid of MHKs and how do we get rid of civil servants who fail in their roles? Interesting answers. A lot of general populist type answers. Yes, it's all a disgrace and these people should do better. Probably not an awful lot of actually properly understanding, well, why are these failures happening? Why is it that DOI, for example, repeatedly struggles to deliver projects in the way that most people would expect them to deliver them? Stu Peters mentioned the Beeman's report, but the Beeman's report was very clear. It was basically saying DOI doesn't have enough money to do the job properly. Stu seemed to be trying to twist that round a bit to suit the populist agenda, which seems to be actually they're all rubbish and they need to do better. But again, good questions, really interesting debate, and I would imagine if any of these candidates get elected, we're going to find potentially in government performance-related pay, perhaps, or much more stringent challenges to in terms of KPIs and things like this, objectives for senior staff.
And what we do know about this constituency that's different from all the others is there will be 2 new faces.
Yes, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. There are no, I'm going to say sitting MHKs, but you know what I mean. There are no retiring MHKs. One, not retiring, but one Tynwald member, obviously, in Jane Poole-Wilson. The other questions, obviously, that were asked in relation to most of the issues, most of the candidates said similar sorts of things. I think Stu obviously had he's sort of saying that he questioned the science, but he said we shouldn't be early adopters.
Oh, this is to do with climate change,
and we should exploit the gas field. So these were fairly strong statements. But then later he was saying that we should have all the houses that we build should be passive house. So interesting. It's sort of a mix of in there. Many of the other candidates had some strong points. One of the points that I really liked, I mean, this was a great answer in relation to how do we keep or get more young people on the island. The general thrust of the discussion was this was all about having a better environment for people to live in. Kieran Hannafin used this fantastic line: if the restaurants were open on Mondays, we'd have more people here. And I really, I know what he's trying to say there. Basically, it's a really important point. It was the classic thing, wasn't it, that all the cafes shut for dinner. We've got to change that around. If people are to live on the island, they need things to do. They need to know that services are going to be available to them, and you can't just expect people to come back out of some loyalty to the island. They have to feel that it's a place they can afford to live, and that there are things for them to do when they're living here.
So I think this is a really, really interesting one. So what you've got on the one hand, you mentioned Jane Poole Wilson. She's got the political experience, having been an MLC. Alison Lynch has been a commissioner for a number of years. Stu Peters has commented on politics in his former role at Manx Radio for a number of years. And then you've got people who really define themselves as being the person in the constituency's voice. So this is going to be a potentially really interesting combination.
Yes, yeah, I have some favourites, I must say.
Are you going to tell us who?
No, I wouldn't want to influence the election. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to produce a golden envelope with all my suggested results in that you can open up after 8 o'clock on Thursday.